Don Shula. Perfect. And of course, this cartoon celebrates the life and coaching of NFL legend and winningest coach in football history of the NFL, Don Shula, who posted a remarkable 17-0 record back in 1972, leading the Miami Dolphins to the Super Bowl championship with a 14-7 win over the Washington Redskins to secure that unbeaten season, almost attained by the New England Patriots, but of course stopped by the brilliant play of the New York Giants. Hi everyone, I'm Will O'Toole. I'm a sports cartoonist, sports writer, and love doing the sports research on my cartoons. And just to give you a little bit of history, I've done some work for a number of newspapers and magazines, and also some television programs. I'm coming to you through Park Ridge Television. I'd like to bring you each week maybe some sports history, and through the use of my cartoons as a vehicle to, talk sports, talk a little bit of history, etc. Today's topic, of course, is Don Shula. I have to say this: I was never a big fan of the Dolphins. Therefore, I was never a big supporter of Don Shula as the coach. I think he was an unbelievably good man. He gave so much of his life to the NFL to make it a better product, both on and off the field. Of course, he winds up with the all-time number of wins, all-time winningest coach. And as stated, he had that 17-0 brilliant season with the Miami Dolphins back in '72, which hasn't been topped. It's gotten close just lately with the New England Patriots, but of course they were stopped by the Giants. And of course there was a lot of celebration and champagne and corks popping when the Giants won that Super Bowl. But I bring up also about the Washington Redskins almost being shut out in that Super Bowl of 1973. And they were down 14-0. It was an errant pass by Gary Upremian. Errant pass because he was a place kicker. The play was muffed. And of course, anybody who's ever seen it, he throws a wobbly. Who knows why he did it in the air instead of just taking the loss. But he throws the pass up for anybody's grab. And Mike Bass of the Washington Redskins ran it back for the only points for the Redskins that day. That was their only offense, scored by the defense. Why I make a big deal of that? Well, when I was doing some research on Shula, just to try to give you a different look on football and coaching and sports history, that Shula racked up 28 all-time shutouts. That's incredible. All right. Not only is that incredible, but of his contemporaries, I'm talking about the Vince Lombardis, the Tom Landrys, the Bill Belichick's, the Chuck Knowles, the Jimmy Johnsons, the Bill Parcells. None of them have come close to recording, in many cases, double digits in shutouts. Just to give you an idea, not only does Shula go on to record 28 shutouts in his illustrious career, I'm just going to pose this for you. Vince Lombardi. People always think of his Green Bay Packers as being a stalwart defensively. They had so many Hall of Fame players on that side, led by Nitschke, Dave Robinson. All right. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the vaunted Steel Curtain of the 70s that won 4 championships, 4 Super Bowls, with Terry Bradshaw manning the quarterbacking duties and Chuck Noll on the sidelines. Noll compiled only 16 shutouts lifetime. Quite remarkable, but then you think about, and I'm going to give this to you, these are all the Hall of Fame players that were on that Steel Curtain team. Mel Blount, Joe Green, Jack Ham, Jack Lambert. All right? 4 or 5 players on the defensive side of the ball. Anybody know how many Hall of Famers on the defensive side of the ball that Don Shula coached in his career, especially in his heyday with those Miami Dolphins, the 72 and 73 and 74 teams, all went to the Super Bowl. 2 of the 3 win the Super Bowl. The only one that lost was to Tom Landry another contemporary, another defensive guy. His team, the Dallas Cowboys, their defense had the nickname of the Doomsday Defense. Shula registered 28 shutouts and had one Hall of Fame defensive player, Nick Buonacane. Buonacane spearheaded the vaunted no-name defense, or the 53 defense, but they were called the no-name defense, and now you know why. They had nobody who got into Canton, with the exception of Buonacane. Bill Belichick, who's probably seen now, if not the heir apparent to Vince Lombardi, certainly just a step below the unbelievable Lombardi. Bill Belichick in his career, 12 shutouts. Now, his defense, of course, doesn't have a cool little nickname that you could market, and his teams have been fashioned behind Brady and a collection of guys and all the rest of it, but he's had some outstanding players there too, and this is a man who's been to the Super Bowl, it seems like, every other year. I think he's been crowned more than Miss America in some years, I'll tell you. But Belichick, only 12 shutouts lifetime. Jimmy Johnson, another contemporary of Shula, and, succeeds Shula, takes over Miami after basically Shula resigns or retires. He had a total of, his first shutout was 91 against Seattle. Then he doesn't have any until he gets to Miami, and he shuts out Pittsburgh, St. Louis, and Tennessee. Not in the same season, but over the course of his career. 4 shutouts. Now, people are going to argue, well, the game has changed. It has. It's loosened up the rules to help the offense, without a doubt. But interestingly enough, Shula, for the most part, was involved with many of those rule changes. I know that they've changed them even more, and now we got the video recorder or the camera now looking at pass interference. Is it pass interference or not in the NFL? That's a whole nother story, but I'll tell you this. He averaged at least, from the first half of Shula's career and the second half, basically the shutouts were about the same. I think when I broke it down, it was like 15-13. Here's another interesting thing about Shula. He's, of course, always been butchered for losing Super Bowl III to the Jets and Joe Namath, a game that he was down 16-0 before he inserted a hurt Johnny Unitas that year, and it made the score closer than it really was. I think it's unfair that Shula gets so much criticism for that game. I think when you start to look at it and you start to view it in context of history and start to see what was really going on, did the Jets have more talent? Probably not. But they did have a Hall of Famer in Joe Namath manning them, who was on top of his game. Earl Morrall, you could actually argue, even though he was the MVP, he certainly wasn't in Unitas's realm. And I certainly don't think he was in Joe Namath. He certainly wasn't in his level of playing talent. Namath just had an unbelievable game. And I think when people start to realize that the Jets really came prepared, I'm not blaming Shula that the Colts were unprepared as much as I really start to believe that, Joe was right. They knew they had a pretty good team there, and they proved it. And I think history has been a little bit more fair to Shula by praising the Jets more and not knocking Shula and his Colts. Because the Colts do rebound and do win a Super Bowl, albeit without Shula. But basically that same team turns around and upsets the Dallas Cowboys 2 years later. But Shula, nevertheless, perseveres, goes to Miami, turns that franchise around, and wins 14 straight 72, and then 3 in the postseason to be the only one who goes 17-0. The interesting thing is, and this goes back to the shutouts, is that Shula gets into 2 Super Bowls by virtue of shutting out his opponent. And the opponents that he shuts out, the Baltimore Colts in 1972, to face the excuse me, 1971-72 season to face the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Jets in 1982. And of course, they do lose to the Washington Redskins in that Super Bowl, 1983. Interesting that he kind of gets revenge against the Jets, gets a certain satisfaction from the Colts, because I think they were disappointed, obviously, losing Super Bowl III, but certain vindication for Don Shula. Shula, again, it's amazing the number of shutouts. It is remarkable. You can say it's kind of luck, and I can point to a number of years where, let's say, Bill Parcells, who I also have listed here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to say unofficially he had 8 shutouts, Parcells, but he also had many games where he limited the opponent to 3 points. I can say the same thing about Don Shula and say, all right, 28 shutouts plus a number of games where he held the other team 3 points. Still remarkable. And in fact, with the exception of Noel, if you counted up all the other guys that I was talking about, they don't even come close to Shula's record of 28 shutouts. And remarkably, as I said, he had actually 3 playoff shutouts. One other thing, and then I'll let you go, is this. Shula registers 6 shutouts against his nemesis, the Jets. And he also shut out the Indiana/Baltimore Colts a number of times as well. I think it was 4, as I saw. Unofficially, I'm going to say 4. But it seemed that he did his most damage against the New York Jets. Somehow, some way, the story always unfolds, and there is some sort of retribution for Don Shula with the New York Jets. This is Will O'Toole for Park Ridge Sports. Thanks for listening, and I hope to bring you more cartoons and a little bit more of sports history. Bye now.